This SoonerScoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. If you're ready to see the rest of the world just as clearly, get your fresh perspective at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIX.
Hello and welcome back, Edward Oswitz. George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. It is Thursday, July 17th. Welcome to a SEC Media Day report, kind of recapping everything. I know that we did a preview show on Tuesday, did the recap show on Wednesday from Atlanta, back here in Oklahoma, made the trip back today. Pretty good trip, though.
Easy flight.
Very easy flight.
Going through St. Louis, our layover was literally 10 minutes, so... Perfect.
Back-to-back opportunities to lock down exit row seats as
best
well.
Best seat. There's nothing in
front of you. That's the best. Although you don't have a cup holder, and I noticed that today on the second leg. I was quite thirsty.
Yeah. Well, that's why you got to pack a water bottle like I did.
I had a water bottle, and I completely forgot about it.
Well, that's your fault.
That is my fault. That's okay. We're going to recap everything that we had with Jim Nagy on Wednesday in Atlanta at SEC Media Day. Obviously, he hasn't really done a big press conference or anything since he took over. We've been trying to get him here in studio. Maybe someday that'll happen. But we did talk to him in Atlanta, getting his thoughts on working with Brent Venables here over the course of the last couple months, jumping into the spring portal, just his thoughts on Ben Arbuckle as well as John Mateer that I think Oklahoma fans will really like. Before we get to any of the stuff with Jim Nagy, though, let us tell you about our good friends over at Roback, RHOBACK.com. All you got to do, use the promo code as you see there on the screen, Sooner20 for 20% off anything on Roback.com. Got the everyday shorts. I got the pullover on today, the quarter zip that is rather comfortable. I enjoy it. I don't know why I'm wearing it. It was a little chilly on the plane.
Well, you were smart about that, and I wore a hoodie, but it is one of those things when you travel, you got to have something to wear because it can get cold in the airport.
And you can shed it with just wearing a polo underneath the Roback. So all you got to do is go to Roback.com, use the promo code Sooner20 for 20% off. Thank you to Roback. All right, we will get to the Jim Nagy stuff. Really, you had a good conversation with him. It was kind of interesting that, we did talk to Brent Venables at the beginning of the day. This was some of the stuff that wasn't on the podium. He had talked about his relationship with Jim Nagy and, just kind of working through whatever this may be. I think that a lot of people want to think that there's some kind of big power struggle behind the scenes. Certainly didn't seem like that's to be the case.
No, I do think it's been very collaborative. And I also think Jim, everybody wants to act like it's this big power struggle. They've been working together. Jim's also been very busy. You think about when he got to campus, it was right before spring practice, so he went out, I think helped evaluate some of the roster, get ready for the spring portal. Then he attacked the spring portal. We saw the success that OU had there. We'll get into some of his thoughts about some of the guys that he added, for Oklahoma. And then as soon as that was over, he's hiring his staff, and that's taken up a good chunk of his time. We saw him out at high school football camp, working very closely with the coaching staff. His staff is out there kind of running things as well and putting these kids through different tests and stuff like that. So I think things have gone extremely well. We'll get into the high school stuff, which I thought was some of the most fascinating stuff in terms of their approach. But I think that he knows and he understands that this thing, he was brought in here not to just help them have success next season. This is a long-term play for Oklahoma. They want Brent Venables to succeed. Jim Nagy obviously wants Brent Venables to succeed. And it seems like the two have been working pretty well together so far.
No doubt. Just a couple months in, and certainly this is an infancy stage, if you will, for the entire product that is the front office for Oklahoma. But here is Jim Nagy talking about working with Brent Venables as well as the rest of the football staff here over the last couple months.
Yeah, it's been great. The goal when I got there was just to get in the building and put my head down and work. And I really knew I needed to gain their trust and gain their respect, as our whole staff. Like we've talked about that. Like, guys, this is different, and we can't expect these guys just to, be right on board with everything we're doing. Like, it's going to be a process. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to get back in next week. So we've been on this break. So the scouting staff will be back in on Monday. We've got a big meeting with the coaches on Tuesday, so really looking forward to integrating. But I got there in March, and again, people talk about the 2026 recruiting cycle. We weren't midstream, we were downstream on that thing. Come in March. But there was a couple players that we got on late that we were able to get, so excited about that. We got some big wins on guys that the coaching staff really liked. But now we finally got a chance after OBs to kind of take a deep breath, and now bring the two staffs together and get on the same page moving forward.
I guess one of the first endeavors for Jim Nagy, personally, to a certain extent, would be attacking the spring portal. And he did that pretty quickly. You got Jaden Knott, obviously. John Mateer was already on campus. We'll get to him here in a second. But all in all, I thought it was a pretty good spring for Oklahoma. And, outside of Jaden Knott, who probably is going to be the number one product out of that group, they had a good class when it's all said and done.
Look, and you'll hear him say it, but his job was to come in here and make this football team better, and he feels like they did that in the spring portal. Whether it's Jaden Knott was the crown jewel of that spring portal class, and really of maybe the entire going back to the winter, other than John Mateer, he's been the guy that everybody's talked about. But he thinks that Jake Michaela could be a big player for him. Jermichael Carter, he received a lot of buzz at media days. I know John Mateer spoke very highly of him. Tate Sandell, the kicker, is somebody that they feel like
Venables
obviously
was really high on Tate Sandell.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be their starting kicker, and they feel really good about him. So he went out. I think that he probably learned some lessons in that too. If you remember, going back to the spring portal, they missed on some guys. They shot high on a few guys and missed on some, but I think they ended up with a group of guys that are going to end up all in some way or some form help contribute this next year.
Should be rather interesting to see how it all comes together. Obviously, the different ways that they've gone about it. We've talked about it here. If you've watched the program before, especially at wide receiver, you're looking for production, maybe more so than paying some of the bigger numbers that were out there. And I think that, again, that's something that we've talked about where Oklahoma is in the grand scheme of things in the NIL product. But here is Jim Nagy talking about attacking the spring portal as well as the get of Jaden Knott from Cal.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest goal in the spring was to get guys that could come in and play a significant role. We weren't looking for depth in the spring portal. We were looking for guys that were going to be starter, play significant roles. So like Jake Michael on the offensive line and Jaden Knott, the kicking situation. So that was Jermichael Carter. I mean, those guys are guys we see playing and having a good role. But it was fun, man. You go into the process and you think you got your eyes open to everything, and of course sometimes you get surprised by some things. But no, every day is kind of a learning experience, and that's the great thing about our staff is like I knew I had blind spots on the college side, so bringing a lot of guys with a lot of college experience. So it's really been energizing for me. One, being around players and coaches again. And when you start a new thing, you guys have started new things in your life too. Like there's that initial period where you're working through it, and you're not always comfortable, and you're not going to grow when you're comfortable. So it's been fun just learning from some of the college guys, not being in this space before. So it's been all of it's been great. Yeah. So he was a guy a year ago when I was here in my old role at the Senior Bowl. Like doing the summer work on Jaden Knott after coming off his whatever it was 1,300-yard season. Our board at the Senior Bowl, I mean the running back group was like Ashton Genty and Omari and Hampton, guys that were first-round picks in April, and Jaden Knott. Like he was up there with that group of players. So when you find out he's going in the portal and you got a chance to get a difference maker, a guy that can score from anywhere on the field, like you got to go. And we really like our running back group too. That's like no indictment on that group, but Jaden's a special player. I mean, he's really got a unique skill set. He can play on all three downs, and again, you got a chance to get a dynamic playmaker at any position, offense or defense. You at least need to explore it, right? And when we saw there might be a chance there, we were really aggressive. So, and Jaden's been awesome since he's gotten to Norman. He's in great shape. He looks great. I'm just fired up. Like the work ethic, what you don't know when you're not around a player a lot. Like the portal's hard. The hardest part of the portal is like knowing what kind of guy you're getting. Like in the NFL, you can call around other teams, or you have background information from when he came out as a college player. Like some of the portal stuff you don't know a lot about. But for him to get here and work the way he's worked and integrate with that running back room the way he's done that, it's been great.
We just wrapped up doing the unofficial 4-day, and we were talking about kind of the big storylines for Oklahoma coming out of SEC Media Day. And if you want to say that like the team and the buzz around them for the national folks is 1A, you got 1B being maybe John Mateer. I think not too far behind that would be the buzz around Jaden Knott. And I think it's interesting, George, because there was a lot of people when he signed committed to Oklahoma coming out of the portal, maybe some just casuals to a certain extent, not to be too offensive, kind of thought maybe he's not going to be a every down back for Oklahoma. That doesn't seem to be the case. They think that Jade Knott is extremely talented.
I mean, Brent Venables and Jim Nagy both basically said they think he can play all 3 downs for him. Is probably the most explosive running back that they've had in Venables' tenure, and that even goes back to Eric Gray, who was their last 1,000-yard rusher. They think that he can be a big-time playmaker in this offense. And, Brent said it too, that they need more explosive plays. It's something that obviously they lacked a year ago. I included the stat in one of my stories I wrote this week, and make sure you subscribe to Sooner Scoop for $1 right now. But it was something like last year they only had 16 runs on the ground of over 20-plus yards. Jaden Knott alone in 2023, when he was last healthy, had 12. John Mateer last year had 11. So you put those two guys in the same backfield, you can only imagine what kind of explosiveness they can have, on the ground, but also I'm sure through the air. I know Jaden's been somebody out of the backfield that they really like. So you feel really good about it. Again, on paper, you need both those guys to be healthy. Jaden's coming off a little bit of an injury from last year, but it sounds like all things are going well. And he's a guy, you listen to Nagy talk about him, that was a guy that Nagy really wanted in the transfer portal. I mean, he was his top guy, and they went out and got him.
Explosive plays, or a lack thereof, has been it's been a problem for Oklahoma here over the last couple of years, especially. I think everything offensively was last year, but especially last year. All right, you have the spring portal, and that was something that, I think that we thought that they were going to be able to attack. Obviously, they had some wins there. Recruiting-wise, it's been a struggle here as of late. And I think that, we talked to Josh McCuistion about this on the Unofficial 40, got his thoughts on the recruiting as a whole. It's an infancy stage. It's an early start. You're going to probably need a little bit more of a sample size. But, this was something that Jim Nagy was pretty honest about. He's stepping into kind of a new world here in recruiting high school players.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask him about that because it feels like this summer especially, and it's because, there's no football going on, the big narrative right now is Oklahoma recruiting. I think they sit in 24th in the recruiting rankings in the 26 class. They've missed out on several guys. From the outside looking in, people might say, why aren't they going after the top guys? I've tried to explain this a few times. This front office staff, the guys that are in charge of, kind of pointing out, hey, these are the guys that we want to go after, the talent evaluators, right? To give the coaches, those player names. They just got here. So give him some grace, give him some time. I'm sure that they would like to recruit some of the top guys. It's going to be hard to get in on some of those guys. You heard Nagy in his first comments that we played. This thing was already downstream, right? Like it's hard to play catch up. So I think you're really going to see the fruits of their labor in the 27 class, especially with the in-state talent. But I did think it was interesting, Eddie, and I'll leave it to Nagy to explain it, but just their thought process, this new front office of how they're going about recruiting these kids and also identifying which players they want to go after.
Couple months in on the job, here is Jim Nagy talking about Oklahoma's recruiting efforts in the high school ranks.
It's a little different, but again, the high school football. I think I spoke to this at the press conference, and it really kind of bore out to how I thought it would. If you just focus on the measurable stuff, real measurable stuff. We've gotten some guys on campus where not quite to where what's been put out there, whether through the high school or camps or whatnot. But if you focus on the measurable stuff and the athlete and the instincts in the production, like you can. That stuff transcends, kind of what level they're playing at. So yeah, it's been fun, man. It's been a little bit of a challenge because it's new, but I've had fun with it.
Fans and media always want to look at the ratings for guys.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
You guys don't pay attention to that, do you?
Yeah, no, we're going to strip all that stuff away. Even when in our new database, there won't be anything like when you work in the NFL. The young scouts that I trained at the Senior Bowl I think we put 18 guys into the National Football League. Like rule one is don't go online and search the internet for what a guy's what Mel Kiper thinks about him or Todd McShay thinks about him or any of those guys. Like do your work first, because again we can try all we want not to be tainted by stuff, but you are, right? So like our scouting staff won't do that. We're going to blindly evaluate these players when they kick to the coaches after they get graded at a certain level. Where we've told them do not fight the urge to go on and look where these guys, how many stars they have next to the name. We need really clean evaluations. And again, the other thing in the evaluation process that can really damage it is the groupthink aspect. And that happens a lot at a lot of places too. So like, do your own work first. Once you've evaluated the player, like, don't go running into somebody's office when you get excited about a player. And that's hard. You watch a player, you get excited. You want to like, hey man, come check this guy out. But we got to fight that urge to do that, because it really hurts the whole evaluation process. Then once everyone has their work in, then we'll see where it settles. So just some. Those are some new things. But yeah, we're just going to stay true to what we see.
You know why the fans out there want to believe it or not? I think there is a method to the madness.
Well, and it's not like Jim Nagy's like, coming up with this amazing new concept.
Right.
He's basically saying, yeah, we're going to do our own evaluations, and we trust our evaluations that we're doing, and that we're going to develop these players into good players. And again, I just want to reiterate, this doesn't mean they don't want to recruit the top players. I do think that they're going to try and find some hidden gems. They're going to try and find some guys that maybe don't cost as much as other guys. But I also would say, let's wait and see what happens in the 27 class, because I think they're going to be in on a lot more top guys than they are right now.
And it all goes hand in hand with what we've been saying for quite a while.
Win some football games.
Win some football games. You're going to be in better position to maybe get some of those guys that would be on the fence that you were trying to get from the bigger upper echelon tier, if you will. So we shall see. Patience. I know that's hard in sports, but we'll see how this goes for the front office.
Yeah.
Obviously, still early in kind of everything that they're doing, and then not to mention falling back on relationships that are still important in recruiting and all that kind of stuff. So let's get to some of the fun stuff, because you did talk to him, being Jim Nagy, about the current team and John Mateer. And I think everybody that has been paying attention to anything in the Oklahoma atmosphere right now, it has been kind of how quickly John Mateer has stepped in, and maybe R. Mason Thomas said it best on Wednesday in Atlanta when he said that it feels like him and Ben Arbuckle have been around for 3 years.
Yeah, look, John Mateer, the hype is real in a lot of ways. We talked a lot about it already, that everybody's talking about him down at SEC Media Days. And to get Jim Nagy's thoughts about him, it was pretty clear to me that he thinks he's a future NFL quarterback. And Jim's been doing this a long time. He understands, and he knows what it's supposed to look like. And to kind of hear his thoughts, kind of like Jaden Ott, where he thinks he's kind of a first-round guy, I kind of get the same feeling about Mateer. And obviously, Oklahoma would love for him to stick around for 2 more years. But
sure,
if he has the type of year that a lot of people think he could have, including Jim, there's a good chance that his name's going to be called in April.
It's only been a couple months, but here is Jim Nagy talking about his impressions on John Mateer through the first couple of months of his tenure in Norman.
He's he's good, and more importantly, he's the right guy. And I've told him this, and maybe I've said it publicly. Like, if I didn't think he were the right, I wouldn't be saying a lot of glowing things about him if I didn't think he knew how to handle it. I told him, like, John, you're good, man. He's like, what nobody sees, and he's in the building all the time. He's in the building all the time. He was in the weight room the other day. I was leaving late at night, getting some work in, and he was still in the weight room by himself. See him with his teammates. He's been unbelievable on some of the recruiting stuff, and to see him connect with guys so easily. Like, some guys really have to try to make connections with other people. Like, John connects with people really easily. And, like, it's hard to walk. Like, ideally, your quarterback can walk into the cafeteria and sit down with any position group and kind of hang with that group of guys. Not every quarterback can do that. And John can do that. And then, the physical stuff, you guys watch it. I mean, he's a lot of fun to watch. He's a playmaker. He sees the field incredibly well. I'm just excited for all these guys just to get the pads on and watch them play. But, yeah, John's been great.
It's talking season, of course, but that certainly sounds good. I mean, when you're talking about John Mateer and just everything that he's brought to the program without actually wearing shoulder pads for an entire game.
I mean, even it's funny, you hear that comment about the cafeteria and walking in. Even with us, like the small interactions we've had with him, he makes it so normal and easy, and he's so personable. I can only imagine what he's like every single day in that locker room. And that's not to say, previous guys didn't have that, but I do think it takes a rare person to be able to do that and understand also the expectations and the pressure that comes with that position, and just embrace them. So, I look, man. If Mateer is half as good as everybody keeps talking about him, I think Oklahoma's gonna be pretty good this year.
Just go back and when you're talking about leadership stuff, just go back to the stuff that we were talking on Wednesday in the recap show from Atlanta. Kind of the way that he's kept guys like a Giovanni Gibson or a Jaden Gibson connected within the program, even though they haven't been able to go through some of the summer stuff. I think that gives you a little bit of a glimpse of how quickly he's acclimated himself as a leader in that locker room. What about the youthful players? He probably didn't go just in depth on some of the stuff that you were hoping for, but I think it probably lines up with some of the stuff. Maybe lends some optimism that there are going to be some of these young guys, whether it be Eddie Pierre-Louis or, the list could go on and on. Trent Wilson, Cortland Guillory, guys that Brent Venables had mentioned on the podium on Wednesday.
Yeah, Elijah Thomas, Michael Fasusi.
Sure.
All those guys I think are going to have a chance to play this year. And I think, listening to Jim, he's enjoyed being able to see some of those guys early in their careers, but out in spring practice, even some guys maybe that weren't on his radar, maybe somebody like a PJ Adebawore, who there's just not a lot of film out there on him, a Danny Okoye, right? Like, I think some of those young guys Jim's really excited about, but it is funny. He definitely did not want to give out any names when I asked for that.
At least not on the record. Here is Jim Nagy talking about if there were any youthful players or players that have some youth within the program that impressed him coming out of the spring.
Stay away from I know I'm dodging a question. I'd love to just answer your question, but there's a lot of guys that even made a lot of growth in the spring. Yeah. Like guys that I'd evaluated off 2024 tape that I thought were a certain player. And again, that's where the adjustment period for a guy, these guys get better fast. Yeah. The development it's a little slower in the NFL. They're more fully formed. These guys can make big jumps. Some of the guys that what the tape looked like and the fans saw at the end of last season is not the same player they're going to see when we line up against Illinois State. Yeah. So some guys make some really big jumps, and I'm excited for everyone to see that. Yeah.
Who those players will be, I guess we'll just have to wait and see come August 30th. But if you can push around Illinois State, I would imagine a number of those youthful guys are going to be able to get into the game. Some of the true freshmen that maybe you don't see on the back end once conference play starts, but you get a little bit of a taste of what they have to offer. I thought it was interesting. He's not a young player, but it sounded like R. Mason was pretty high on PJ Adebawore coming out of Wednesday in Atlanta.
In relative terms, he is a young guy, right, and a young player, but it is his third year in the program. It's time to step into that role, and he's a freak. You look at him out there, he's the best-looking guy, so I would definitely throw him into that category. Here's my bold take. I don't even think this is bold. Elijah Thomas will score in the season opener.
Okay, we're going to write it down. Yep. We're going to write it down. Don't write any feature stories in between now and then. Don't go out to Shakota. He should be banned from Shakota. How about that? Yeah. Speaking of youth, 29-year-old Ben Arbuckle, offense coordinator for Oklahoma, going to be stepping into that role this season. Obviously, coming along with John Mateer. I think we're going to talk about him a time or two this season, but I don't know if I've heard anybody more high on Ben Arbuckle than somebody like a Jim Nagy.
He thinks he's going to be a head coach someday. And I think that so far that trajectory certainly looks like it. And this is a big opportunity for him. I think that people knew who he was, especially after last season and obviously what he did with Cam Ward as well. But to hear his story of, he was driving Ubers, what was it, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Or Uber Eats is what he was doing, delivering Uber Eats to where he is now. It's pretty remarkable. But I do think that there's a chance. I mean, if this offense can achieve the things that it wants to and thinks it can this year, a lot of people are going to know Ben Arbuckle's name. And I think there's a good chance that some schools are going to be coming after him.
Could be a lot of fun. Here is Jim Nagy talking about Oklahoma's offense coordinator, Ben Arbuckle.
Yeah, Ben's a stud, man. I hope he's in a position, at some point to become a head coach, because I think he'll be a really good one. And if he does, that means we've had a ton of success at OU with him. I'm all for it. But no, he just brings a ton of juice. He's really kind of mature beyond his years. Like, you guys see him at practice, but behind the scenes, like there is a maturity and a serious side to him when there needs to be. But he does. He keeps it light with the guys on the field, and I think the youth is great. He can still go out and throw it around with those guys a little bit, but no, he has command, and a lot of young coaches don't have command. They're still trying to be that, player-to-player thing, like the young guy-to-young guy thing. When he needs to command the room, he commands the room, and he's not afraid to do it. So that's what I've been impressed by most.
Very, very impressively positive.
Yeah, we need to talk to Jim Nagy more.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
would love to get him in the studio. We only got about 15 minutes with him.
Sure.
Yesterday, and I would love to get him in studio and really pick his brain on some more topics.
Sharp suit jacket too.
Oh yeah, he looked great.
Very, very good. All right. That's going to do it for the Jim Nagy conversation. There is plenty more to get into. We have a ton of content to get into over the next couple of days into next week probably, just in terms of just clean up from SEC Media Day. For some reason, I almost said Big 12 Media Day, even though we were there for the last 3 days.
You're going to do that for the next few years still, I bet.
Unfortunately, probably so. But that was a good. Make sure you hit up the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel for everything from SEC Media Day. I almost did it again. I don't know why. It's something in this studio because I never did that when we were in Atlanta, but had the recap on Wednesday talking John Mateer, R. Mason Thomas, Robert Spears Jennings, some of the bigger takeaways from hearing from Brent Venables. We talked about it today on the Unofficial 40 as well. Kerry came close to basically saying Oklahoma's not going to lose a game for the next decade.
Yep.
And we shall see. There is a lot of positive momentum right now for Oklahoma football, believe it or not.
They got to go prove it. I know you and I are kind of on the I wouldn't say negative. We're just cautious because of what happened.
It's team show me. Yeah. I'm not sticking my neck out anymore for this because we saw what happened last year when we said that it couldn't get any worse, and then it did get worse
every week,
each week for about 7 weeks, and almost ran off of what is that, I-40 something in Columbia, Missouri, on the way back to Kansas City. I-44, I think. No, it's not 44. I don't know. They have what's the St. Louis, Kansas City baseball series, whatever that is. We're done here. Everybody have a good week. For George Stoya, I-70, Kerry says, I-70 series. That's what it was, right? When they played in the World Series together. I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.